Fox News anchors stay popular faces on television even though they're simply delivering the news. And that's why people often grow curious about their lives off camera too. In 2025, two well-known anchors from the network are going through a divorce. And they're not the only ones, as over the years several Fox News personalities have split from their partners for reasons, ranging from cheating scandals to personal differences they couldn't work through. Liz Claman and Jeff Kepnins were one such media power couple whose relationship began early in their careers at WHDH-TV in Boston, eventually marrying in 1999 at the Beverly Hills Hotel and building a 24-year marriage with 2 children. Even as Claman became one of Fox Business's most influential anchors, and Kepnins established himself at MSNBC, despite appearing stable. Insiders say the marriage gradually drifted apart, and though no one realized it at the time, the two quietly divorced in 2023 without issuing a public statement. Some believe the pressures of opposing networks and high-stress careers played a role, though others say the relationship simply faded over time. Another Fox News anchor, Julie Banderas, shocked viewers on February 9, 2023, when she announced live on air that she was getting a divorce, ending a marriage that began in 2009 with Andrew Sanson and produced 3 children. Their relationship had already shown signs of collapse when she publicly referred to Sanson as her soon-to-be ex in December 2022. And later reports revealed that Sanson had been arrested after allegedly threatening her with a knife, which led to a restraining order and accelerated their split. Banderas later described the divorce as agonizing but ultimately freeing. A few years earlier, Sean Hannity also finalized a quiet divorce from Jill Rhodes after more than 2 decades together, a marriage that began in 1993 and produced 2 children. While they kept the details private, insiders pointed to Hannity's demanding schedule as a possible source of strain, though the couple remained civil after separating. Hannity later began dating fellow Fox News host Ainsley Earhardt, and by December 2024, the two were engaged after he proposed during Christmas at a Florida church. Earhardt herself went through 2 divorces. The first with Kevin McKinney after marrying him in 2005 and splitting 4 years later, the second with Will Proctor, whom she married in 2012 and later divorced in 2019, amid allegations of infidelity. Though Proctor denied them, Earhardt later spoke about the challenges of miscarriages, balancing a high-profile career and choosing emotional peace for herself and her daughter. Another Fox personality whose personal life drew headlines was Jesse Watters, who married Noelle Inguajato in 2009 and welcomed twin daughters before a workplace affair with associate producer Emma Digovine came public in 2017. Noelle filed for divorce soon after, and the scandal intensified when people learned Watters had let the air out of Dejovina's tires to offer her a ride home, an action many criticized. Despite the controversy, Watters quickly remarried Dejovine in 2019, and they later had 2 children together. Another high-profile breakup involved Kat Delley and Patrick Kielty, who first met as co-hosts of a BBC talent show before eventually falling in love around 2011 and marrying in Rome. In 2012, they built a family with 2 sons and lived between the US and UK. But by 2025, their marriage had ended after. Kielty admitted he often felt like a junior shareholder in their relationship, especially regarding big decisions like moving from Los Angeles to London. They announced a mutual, respectful separation. Megyn Kelly also experienced divorce early in her life when her first marriage to physician Daniel Kendall ended in 2006. But she later met and married Douglas Brunt in 2008, calling it the best decision of her life. Their marriage produced 3 children through IVF and has remained strong, both emphasizing communication and mutual respect. And even Fox veterans like Edie Hill experienced multiple divorces throughout her personal journey. First marrying Mark Philip Whaley in 1989, later divorcing in 1995, then entering a second brief marriage that also ended, before finding stability in 2002 when she married venture capitalist Joe Hill and formed a blended family. Now in 2025, yet another high-profile Fox News anchor has announced she is divorcing her husband, who works for a rival network, adding to the long list of Fox personalities whose private lives have made headlines over the years as more Fox News personalities continue to navigate the difficult balance between public visibility and private relationships. It became clear that the pressures of round-the-clock media life often strained even the most committed marriages. The relentless schedules, the need to project confidence on screen even while dealing with personal turmoil, and the polarizing nature of modern cable news made made it almost impossible for anchors to shield their families from the weight of their careers. Colleagues often say that the newsroom becomes a second home, not always by choice, but because the job demands a constant presence, constant updates, and constant emotional bandwidth. Many anchors openly admit that while the lights and cameras turn off, the intensity of news rarely dies down behind the scenes. And this sometimes influences the course of their relationships more than the public ever realizes. And as 2025 unfolded, this pattern became even more visible as fans watched veteran and newer anchors alike confront major crossroads in their personal lives. Some insiders say the emotional toll of working in an industry where criticism, pressure, and controversy are routine can slowly seep into marriages in ways the public never sees. Backstage, staff often share that anchors frequently rush from tense editorial meetings to scripted segments and then straight home to address family matters that had been waiting all day. And this constant tug of war can slowly weaken even the strongest bonds. Many former Fox staffers say that the anchors' personal lives often become collateral damage in their rise to prominence, especially for those who spend decades anchoring primetime programs or morning shows that leave little opportunity for rest. What's also surprising is how different the circumstances of each divorce are. Some ended with quiet mutual agreements. Some were pushed into the public eye by circumstance, and others faded from the headlines entirely. In each story, fans saw a glimpse into the reality that fame and stability rarely go hand in hand. Some longtime Fox viewers have commented that the industry seems to take a heavier toll on women anchors, who often juggle the dual pressures of motherhood and primetime broadcasting. For anchors like Earhart and Kelly, both of whom built major careers while trying to protect their children from the public eye, the emotional load doubled. Parents and media often say their biggest fear is that their children will become unintentional subjects of public curiosity, especially during divorces or breakups. This is why in many Fox News marriages that ended, anchors made deliberate efforts to keep their children out of public statements and avoided sharing details that might follow their families for years. Meanwhile, the divorces among well-known anchors shaped new dynamics within the network itself. Viewers who had followed their favorite hosts for decades felt personally invested in their lives, leading to endless online commentary. Social media platforms became filled with discussions about who was dating whom, which anchors were starting new chapters, or which couples seemed to be struggling. This online fascination sometimes magnified normal relationship problems into tabloid-level spectacles. Even as anchors tried to maintain privacy, the public was always eager for more information, creating an environment where silence only fueled further speculation. Inside Fox News headquarters, some staffers revealed that breakups and divorces sometimes created awkward dynamics in the newsroom, particularly when two anchors continued to work in the same building after their marriages ended. Co-workers said there were moments when personal tensions quietly echoed through production meetings, though professionalism typically kept things smooth on camera. But the truth remained, newsrooms function like tight-knit ecosystems, and when personal lives intersect with professional responsibilities, everyone feels the ripple, even if subtly. Beyond Fox, the broader cable news world saw similar trends. The job of anchoring, whether on Fox, MSNBC, or CNN, has become more demanding, more political, and more publicly scrutinized than ever. Anchors today are not just broadcasters. They are public figures whose lives are analyzed daily, and this raises the stakes of every personal decision. That's why when a Fox anchor separates from a spouse who works for a rival network, the story inevitably becomes larger than life. It becomes a symbol of how intertwined the world of cable news has become and how personal relationships can mirror the broader competition between networks. These intertwining narratives have also led to unexpected alliances. Some anchors who endured divorces found comfort in friendship with colleagues who faced similar experiences. Others turned their heartbreak into personal transformation, throwing themselves into their careers or finding new passion projects. A few even became more open with viewers, discussing resilience, mental health, and the pressures that come with being a public figure. In some cases, anchors use their platforms to help others navigate difficult chapters, sharing small pieces of their journeys without revealing too much. Still, not all Fox News personalities who experienced divorce walked away with painful memories. Some found stability with new partners, discovering relationships that were healthier or more aligned with their lifestyles. Hannity and Earhart became one of those examples, not for drama, but for how two people in the same environment found common ground, mutual support, and shared faith. Other anchors similarly found unexpected new beginnings. For them, the ending of a marriage was not a scandal but a transition toward a more fulfilling chapter. For many Fox alumni, life after divorce brought personal growth. Some former anchors who left the network altogether say stepping away from the spotlight allowed them to rebuild their families, careers, and identities at a healthier pace. This point is often overlooked. The anchors' lives keep evolving even after they leave the camera. Just like Edie Hill, who quietly moved through marriages before finding stability in her third. Many discover peace outside the frenzy of national television as 2025 progressed. Fans began to understand that the world of cable news glamorous on screen. High pressure behind the scenes creates a complicated environment for maintaining stable long-term relationships. The divorces, breakups, and new romances among Fox News anchors were not symbols of chaos, but reminders of how human these public figures are. And with new anchors entering the network each year, new marriages forming, and new challenges emerging, it was clear that this pattern of public success and private struggle wasn't going away. If anything, it was becoming part of the ongoing story of modern media, life a reminder that behind every polished segment, smiling broadcast, and confident tone is a person navigating the same complexities, heartbreaks, and hopes as everyone else as more stories of breakups and separations emerged. Media experts began pointing out that these patterns were not unique to Fox News, but reflected a much broader trend within the media landscape. Anchors from every major network, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox often experienced the same recurring cycle: non-stop travel, unpredictable hours, emotional burnout, and the exhausting task of appearing composed even when their personal lives were unraveling. In many ways, the job itself became the third partner in their relationships, one that demanded more attention, more presence, and more sacrifice than most marriages could withstand over time. And at Fox News, where personalities often build incredibly loyal followings and become synonymous with the network, the emotional cost of that role could run even deeper. The newsroom culture also played a role. Former employees often describe the environment as one where adrenaline never really fades. Breaking news can happen at any moment, which means anchors must always be half ready, half watching, half waiting. Even on vacations, phones stay on. Even on anniversaries, producers might call. Even during family dinners, emails ping with updates about scripts, segments, or last-minute changes. For many spouses, this becomes a constant reminder that they are perpetually competing with a career that always seems more urgent. Over time, that imbalance, no matter how loving the relationship, can quietly erode the foundation of a marriage. Another factor that emerged in many of these stories was public perception. When an anchor becomes a household name, strangers form opinions about their personality, their morals, their relationships, and their family decisions. Some anchors have spoken privately about how unnerving it can be to read comments online about their marriages from people they've never met. When rumors circulate or when tabloids twist stories into something they're not, even strong relationships can begin to feel the strain of unwanted attention. And when a marriage is already going through difficulties, that kind of spotlight can magnify every flaw, every disagreement, and every misunderstanding for a number of Fox News anchors. These pressures resulted not only in divorce, but also in new directions for their personal lives. Some began to rethink their priorities altogether, making decisions that surprised viewers but made sense to those closest to them. A few scaled back their workloads to spend more time with their children. Others chose to pursue different roles within the network, or even step behind the camera instead of staying in front of it. These shifts showed a growing awareness that personal stability mattered just as much as career success. Especially after years of sacrificing one for the other, viewers who followed these anchors through every major election, breaking story, and national crisis found themselves witnessing an unexpected human side of people they'd only known through a screen. Many wrote messages of support, expressing empathy and understanding for the challenges these anchors faced. That kind of reaction showed that audiences were evolving too. They no longer saw anchors as just polished, scripted professionals, but as individuals dealing with the same emotional complexities as everyone else. This newfound connection between viewers and anchors also changed how some personalities approached their on-air presence, becoming a bit more open, more relatable, and more willing to show vulnerability. Even amid these challenges, the Fox newsroom continued to evolve, with new hosts stepping into roles once held by anchors who had moved on or taken breaks from the spotlight. Some of these newer personalities brought fresh perspectives that resonated with younger viewers. Others found themselves walking the same difficult path of balancing demanding schedules with family commitments. It became clear that the cycle was ongoing. Not because of any fault in the individuals, but because the nature of modern news. Broadcasting had grown more intense than ever. Meanwhile, anchors who had gone through divorce often found surprising second chapters in their personal lives. Some discovered new relationships that fit more naturally with their lifestyle partners who understood the pressures of constant public scrutiny and a non-stop career. Others chose to focus solely on their children, finding fulfillment in rebuilding family routines that had been overshadowed by long work hours. A few embraced single life entirely, enjoying the peace that came with having control over their own schedules and decisions for the first time in years. Interestingly, colleagues within Fox say that while a handful of anchors found love again with people inside the industry, just as many sought relationships outside the media world altogether. They were drawn to partners whose lives were not dependent on headlines or ratings, lived at a slower pace, and who offered the sense of stability they often missed. This shift became especially common among anchors who had spent long stretches in primetime, roles positions known for creating some of the most intense work-life imbalances, and through it all, the network continued to operate as it always had, with the next story waiting, the next breaking news alert lighting up phones, the next election cycle looming ahead. Yet many anchors quietly admitted that their life experiences had changed how they approached the job. Some said they felt more empathy while covering stories about families, relationships, and personal challenges. Others admitted that the lessons learned from their divorces made them better communicators on air, more aware of how fragile relationships can be beneath the surface. But perhaps the most significant realization that emerged from all these stories was this: longevity in the world of cable news requires not just professional discipline but emotional resilience. Anchors who survive decades in the industry often do so by learning how to separate their personal identities from their on-air personas, by choosing relationships that can withstand the unusual demands of the job, and by accepting that their lives will always be under public observation. Some Fox News veterans say they eventually reached a point where they stopped trying to achieve the perfect work-life balance and instead began making peace with the reality that their career comes with sacrifices that not everyone is willing or able to make. But for those who endured difficult divorces, found new love, or rebuilt their families after heartbreak, the journey brought a deeper understanding of what truly matters beyond the bright lights of the studio. As the news of yet another Fox anchor's divorce spread through media circles, colleagues at the network reacted with a mix of surprise and weary familiarity. It had become almost expected that the bright studio lights and relentless schedules would take a toll on even the strongest marriages. Behind closed doors, some anchors joked darkly that Fox News should start offering marriage counseling as part of their benefits, while others admitted privately that they feared their own relationships might one day meet the same fate. But this latest divorce felt different, not because the couple was particularly famous, but because their split exposed the emotional cost of building a public persona while living a private life that rarely had room to breathe. The anchor's husband, deeply rooted in a rival network, had grown tired of living in what he described to friends as a three-way marriage: him, her, and the newsroom. She, on the other hand, insisted that she had given everything she could, but the more her career grew, the more their connections seemed to shrink around the network. Stories like these reminded anchors of how fragile their own lives were. Many of them, no matter how polished they looked on camera, carried invisible exhaustion or sickness from constant travel, adrenaline spikes from breaking news, and the emotional strain of reporting on tragedies day after day. Those pressures had slowly carved cracks into marriages, some small and repairable, others widening beyond recovery.